Arganissima, New York. Your exotic skin, hair, and beauty source, and your one-stop shop for all your natural and organic skin and hair care, featuring authentic organic Moroccan oil and prickly pear seed oil and much more. Bringing you only the best, straight from the source and proudly produced in the USA. So what are you waiting for? Shop today at www.arganissima.com. Arganissima, New York. Your beauty is our duty.
Folks, welcome back to the iHealth channel, iHealth Radio, new day, new show, new guest, and a very dear topic and a very difficult topic, but also a great person I have with me today. And the work she's doing is, it can help a lot of people live better. And so, again, I try to be mysterious usually in the beginning of the shows, but I'm not going to do much of that today. But I have with me Bettina Brown. She's a physical therapist by I guess, profession, but she specializes in something more to work with certain folks with certain illnesses. And the topic that she actually tailors to and caters to most of the time, if not, that's the main thing that she's been working with, is breast cancer patients. And obviously, breast cancer is a tremendous disease, and it affects a lot of people that are close to you, your friends, your family, and I don't think anyone that's alive today doesn't know someone who knows someone, or at least heard of someone, family member, friends, and so on, that have been affected with this particular disease. And it's unfortunate. Some people get through it, some people don't. I actually personally had this experienced it personally in my life, and I know it's not an easy thing, right? And we'll talk about it. But anyways, without further ado, I have with me Bettina Brown, and Bettina is also a podcaster, and she started her podcast to help people actually and guide them to live a full life, a joyful life, and happy life. And she's going to get us through all that talk and everything that she's been doing and why, how it all started. So as usual, first things first, Bettina, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure. And I want you to just to take us back to your story. I know you're a physical therapist. That's the work you do, but really you were specialized in this particular added value, helping patients that are special with cancer, breast cancer. And the first question that comes to mind, like, how's that, with physical therapy, how does that work? All right. And we'll talk about that. But also it's just like, that's not something that you chose. I mean, tell us about your story, how it all happened, so we can at least make a link to it.
Absolutely. And what is very interesting is that physical therapists do more. We think about outpatient, right? My shoulder hurts, my back hurts. Physical therapists actually help women with incontinence, men with incontinence. We help people with wound care. If you have a gaping hole, we can treat that. We have so many specialties that we can do. It's not just limbs. We can do, if you just have neurological conditions, just things that you don't right away think about. I loved being a physical therapist. And I actually became one because my neighbor, she was babysitting, and I had to help, she had a child I was babysitting, and she wanted to go have a good time with her husband. And when the baby was to sleep, I started looking at what was on the table, and she was studying for the board. So all the stuff, like just everything. And I thought, this is amazing. And she told me a little bit more about it. And I thought, I think I want to do this. And I literally made the decision like that, 10th grade. I think I want to do this. And with physical therapy, you have to have a bachelor degree. And then you go to the physical therapy program. I always say I'm an older PT. I only have a master's, but now it is a doctorate program. So 3 more years after your bachelor. And then you can specialize afterwards, but usually we're a little tired right after 7 years of schooling. But I was noticing myself, I think I'm ready to specialize in something. And I actually specialized in wound care. So I loved it. If you have wounds on your legs from vascular issues, you have literally a gunshot wound to the abdomen, like we can treat that. But what we don't think about when we do this is how many people have cancer and end up with surgical wounds, surgical infections, that kind of realm. At that time, also, my aunt passed away from breast cancer. And I personally was noticing some changes, and I went to the doctor myself. And while I was there, laying there, getting my personal ultrasound, and I saw a spot myself. You know, I'm in healthcare. I'm not a radiologist, but you know when something looks odd, right? And I had this one little tear just kind of go down the side of my face into my ear. And I thought, okay, if I do have breast cancer, because I was really afraid, if I really do have it, I'm going to evaluate how I live my life. And I want to dedicate my life to that because I'm already listening to these people talk and I have an education in healthcare. What if I didn't? You know, this is overwhelming. So that's when I learned I carry the breast cancer 2 or the BRCA2 gene. So they're different genes, but I'm a little more disposed than the person that doesn't. So I am more cautious of my weight. I'm more cautious of how I eat, how stressed I am. And I went into a field called lymphedema, which most people haven't heard of either. It's a swelling, actually. And usually you get this in first world countries like the United States, you get that because of cancer, breast cancer, ovarian cancer, just this huge swelling. In other countries, you get it from an infection. And as I was working with this, I started a job at a women's hospital, and I was exclusively working with people who had cancer, mostly breast cancer. And I had so many people sit there, and I thought, how can I really serve them best? Because everyone was on a different emotional scale. They were scared, but so many people said, I'm going to change how I live my life when I'm on the other side of this. It's already changing the way I live my life. And so that is where I just continue to focus on how to change your life, how to change our own lives. And I realized the gap, and I can't even express to you how many people I've seen, numerous doctors who do phenomenal work, but have 7 minutes with you, 15 minutes with you. And there are so many questions you don't have an opportunity to ask. And with an hour each time, seeing someone for 12 to 15 hours, I really needed to come to the table with answers and empathy. And that's where this whole mission statement came, where I'm talking to people who should know this answer, but don't have resources. And as a lymphedema therapist, I live in New Mexico, Albuquerque region, there are 5 lymphedema therapists. We are a population of over 500,000. It is not acceptable for people to drive 2 and 3 hours for an appointment and then see you, and you're so busy that they have to wait 6 to 8 weeks to see you again. To me, I find that unacceptable. And so that's where I've moved on to this mission.
Well, that's a lot.
It is.
and it is a great mission, and it is a honorable mission, I would say, and noble. I mean, you're helping people, and you made it your own personal, I guess, job. Really, I mean, I'm assuming this is not something you get paid for. Helping people, it's a guided, it's a guidance. I mean, you do have your career, but I want to just go back to the steps, right? So you went into this field, and then you specialize in this particular, wound care, and then you discovered, it's not discovered, to your point. A lot of people may, as I asked you, like many people may have the question, like, well, what does it have to do with breast cancer? But you're right. People have, surgeries, and, they have wounds, and you have to take care of them. But then now you have to deal with their, person and their emotions, because you know how it is when someone, I work with the seniors, and without any problems, they just talk to you because they need someone to talk to. Now, when someone is sick or going through these changes in life and the fear and the unknown, there's a very good chance that these people are going to want to talk to someone, at least relate to them. And it is sad, but that is a big, component you just mentioned, that in the healthcare, at least in the US, I'm not sure about other countries, probably is worse in some places, maybe better than others, I don't know. But you're right, the healthcare is busy. And doctors are also very busy. Population, ratios are higher, and therefore there's very limited time that they can dedicate. I mean, even with what we call now, it's the private medicine or whatever, those concierge medicine. It's still, you pay for it and you still get your dedicated time, but not everybody can afford those, and those are just the 1%, maybe a couple of percent that can have access. But the average person goes to a regular clinic or a health center, or even their primary care doctor. But there's a lineup, there's a whole room waiting area with a bunch of people and patients. And at best, the doctors, sometimes they're good. I mean, some doctors will take the best time and they give you all, but you're right, it's never enough. And not when they do the routine stuff. They check you, they do this, they tell you the diagnosis, if there is something, if prognosis, whatever. But at the end of the day, they're not going to be able to talk about your emotions and empathy and all the stuff and get you like in that. You need a therapist for that. And I'm talking about therapist. Yeah. So it's a whole different thing. And some people do have resources for that purpose as well. And I know you guide people towards these resources where they can get more for themselves. And there's agencies out there, associations, and so on and so forth that can help. But you're right, that is a big deal, and it's unfortunate. And you, as a provider, being in the clinic setting, working with these patients, I mean, you're seeing it. Now, the other part with you is that you are someone at risk, based on your genes. And so I know that is not an easy thing to live by. I mean, I'm sure you don't think about it every day because you can't. I mean, that'll drive you nuts. But at the same time, you're cautious, you're aware. And so awareness here is key. Now, I know that there is a routine that needs to happen every year with women. They have to check. And I guess in your case, maybe even twice a year. I'm not sure the frequency where you need to do mammograms and stuff. But either way, women have to be. And by the way, this is not about women only, because it affects women, but it affects everybody around them. So their spouses, their significant, their kids, their family members. So what I'm saying, this is actually, it starts with the women, but it's more. I mean, this is a whole, because I relate to it because my ex-wife, had breast cancer, and she passed on after a couple of years of chemo and treatment. Now, we weren't together, but we were still friends. And, my son is, she's my son's mother. And while we were, it was sad to see that whole transition, how it went, and it was very quick, and then the way she deteriorated and things like that, it was bad. And she kind of had a comeback, and then eventually that she just couldn't, it just got hurt. The chemo and everything she wasn't strong enough to take all that. And unfortunately, she passed on. But like, it affected my son, for example. He saw his mom going through that stage, and that's a tough one. But those are things that people sometimes don't even realize, like what can go into somebody's mind and who is affected with it. So again, I just wanted to make that clear, because it's the people, obviously the person herself, is going to be affected with this, and it is not easy. Just go into the mammogram. I mean, I know my mom, for example, when she goes, and she's a senior, and I take her, and every time she goes, she's terrified.
Worked up, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she has to go routinely, but she's a an older lady, but it doesn't matter at any age. That's still frustrating to go in and you don't know what's the next, what's going to happen, and God forbid something. Then you get the anxiety attack before you even show up there, and then when you do, you're crossing fingers and praying, and hopefully nothing happens. So it's a very difficult. I mean, as a man, I cannot speak to it. I can speak to it from a prostate, version, because we have the same problem. That's another one. You get a certain age, and now you have to worry about prostate. And sadly, my dad passed, with prostate cancer personally. So I can tell you, on both sides, I'm like you.
You've seen, yes,
I've seen both sides, so I can relate to those things, from a personal experience, and it's tough. And you hope for the best. That's the key. But sometimes good words, sometimes people supporting you, it's a big deal. And seeing someone with a loving and showing empathy, with you, I mean, have somebody to relate, to talk to, that's a powerful. Your podcast does that, and your work does that. And so now we established basically your background and how you did it. Now, some of the experiences, I know you've talked to people, and so what are some of the regrets or some of the things that people come up with that got you really like emotional about?
So I'm going to answer that, but I'm going to say this too. Very few men will get breast cancer. And so it is important for men to do that. So we talk about women, and I focus on women because primarily that's who gets it. But what I will say, it really depends on the age. So far as the emotional, for me, it was hard to see someone, 25, 26 have a double mastectomy. Because there's, yes, it affects you regardless of age, but it's just hard because I'm older than that. And I just felt for her. And then I also felt bad for this one person. She's really the one who sparked this whole podcast in me. She said, every day is a good day to have a good day. And I know that stress caused this. I know it is from stress. And she would talk, and I could tell that she needed to talk. But what I will also say is, I saw her face one day and she said, I know it's back. I know it's back. I know it in my body. And she actually sparked me to do a volunteer work. I did that volunteer work. We talked with some people, and I'm like, I haven't, because, I'm at the patient provider relationship. I can't be too close. And she goes, she did pass. And I went home and I literally cried because she just made such a good impact on me. And just the life she had, she wanted to live every moment. And what the regrets were, and I hear this particular one, I need to be the person I want to be and not live the life for somebody else. And especially as mothers, many of them are mothers. I am one myself. I do pour into my son, but that's not the only thing about Bettina Brown. I am a person, and I have interests, and I have things that I want to do. And sometimes I say we let our own BS get in the way, or we let other people's BS get in the way. And I think that is the biggest regret, and the emotion is not being you and realizing it, quote unquote, air quotes here, too late. That you can't, for those that can't, some can make that change, some cannot.
Bettina, thank you for that. I mean, that is powerful, because you're right. I think we all make this mistake. I don't think anyone watching and listening right now will probably relate to this one way or the other, because we all are so caught up in life and the status quo and all the pressures that we have, whether it's work, whether it's life, whether this, that, the other. And of course, the larger your family is, you have all these emotions coming in. I mean, you have a child, it's one thing, you have two, it gets worse. You have parents, you have this, you have that, and we cater and to everyone, right? And sometimes we also live a life that what people want us, how they want us, how they see us, right? It's not your style, it's not your way, but you want to do it because you want to be conformative to conform with the actual norms, right? That everybody is, expecting from you. And then life goes on. Time goes by fast. I mean, I literally had a discussion today with a colleague and who's about to turn the big 50, and and we were having this discussion like, how the hell that happened? Where did it go? And believe it or not, I turned 50 last year, and I had the same question, like, half a century, what the hell? It was literally just yesterday, and you don't think about it until you're there. And like, damn, I'm like, what's up? I mean, time is.
There's a little less ahead of you than there's behind you.
Exactly. So it's like, I mean, we don't know. I mean, but here's the thing: even if you lived 100 years, there's a good chance you're not going to be in the position and the health that you have today. I mean, very few people can make it to that age and still be very functional. So it's, and again, listen, we believe that God has powers and miracles happen, right? But that's again, the physics, do, and the biology does speak for itself. And we have certain things that there's a limit to everything. But the fact is, when you think about it, everybody, today is here. Tomorrow is not guaranteed. Most people, I mean, we talk about positive inspiration in some of the shows, and a lot of people are caught up in the past and everything that happened. And yeah, I mean, if things happen, you can't do anything about them. So that first thing, to your point, stress, most people think about breast cancer or any disease, especially modern diseases are, although I can't say modern disease because these things did linger before, but now more relevant. But they are drivers behind them, right? And one of them, I mean, it can be genetics and things like that. That's just potential, and it can turn to something. But you have things that are society, based, like the stress piece. Life is different today, and if you, even in some parts of the world, life is still kind of antiquated, and people live an easy life. We live in one of the most advanced societies, most like a dynamic and very like just go out there crazy, right? You wake up in the morning and you run, and then the whole day goes up. Exactly, go, and then you come back. You don't even have time to eat properly. I mean, we had these discussions before about, for example, in Europe, in Spain specifically, there's the siesta time. They finish work, they go to home, they chill, they relax. their lifestyle is different. Their food habits are different. There's no eating while you're running. I mean, people look at you funny if you grab a burger and walk out on the street. And I'm giving a bad example with a burger, but you know, or whatever it is, you take something fast food and you're like munching in the car, and we see that. I mean, I'm guilty as charged. I mean, you're working, you're going to a meeting, you're grabbing your food in between, or you actually have a meeting and a conference, and you're like, you know, talking and chewing, and you don't even enjoy that food, right? And that has been the problem. And so we were worried about the finances. We're worried about everything, the inflation. I mean, the world is really gone crazy. but that doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, you and I only have you and I. I mean, to yourself, I mean, you have to you is number one. And you know, this not being selfish, because people sometimes think that's being selfish. If I am not well, I'm not good to anyone around me. Mm-hmm. You know, that's the other part. I mean, you said you're a mom, and if you're sick, you're not going to be able to give, you know, to your son or daughter, right? And that's a tough, you know, position. So we want to be number one, to be able to give to the rest of the people around us, whether at work, whether or not, you know. And then sometimes that's the other thing, we get caught up with, you know, the BS, and there's a lot of it these days around us. And I mean, I'm sorry, but it's fact. I mean, we all deal with it. We deal with it. I mean, let's call it what it is, right? I mean, some people are like, you know, there is BS. Trust me, everybody's life has BS in it, and people kind of make a good contribution to it. So you know, I read this quote the other day. Is the most quote? I think it was something on TikTok. Somebody that said, the most dangerous person is someone that says it is what it is, because there's nothing you can do to them. You know, and I'm a believer of that. Personally, I'm one of those folks that, you know what, it is what it is. The world can burn. There's nothing I can do. You know, when things happen, there's very little that you cannot prevent. Or if you pass the stage of prevention, the facts are happening. When something drops, you can't fix it. It's done. It's broken. I mean, maybe you can, yeah. but chances are it's never going to be the same position as it used to be, right? Very hardly. So you sweat it. Some people, oh my God, what happened? Why? Yeah. You don't question the why happened, but now you have to see how you're going to live. And
right.
In this case, we're talking just general stuff, but when it comes to life and health, I mean, health is wealth. I mean, there's nothing, I think you can have trillions, infinite money. It will never bring your health back. You can buy limbs, you can buy things, but even those are not guaranteed that they're going to work, right?
Correct.
You can have all the surgeries, and they plug you in with all different parts. You know, there's a good chance it's not going to work the same way, and something can malfunction, and you don't want to go through it, God forbid, right? So money cannot buy health. It can support, you know, a healthy style maybe, and that's a different story. Again, money is a means, and it's not the end. But depends how, and that's the other thing. People think money is the only thing, and happiness is attached to money. But when you health, you know, many people lose their health, and they will give the world, and they're rich. They give all their money just to exchange one good day where they can do what they used to do when they were healthy. And that's a big deal. And for someone to go through it, you know, especially in this experience, and again, I can speak to it because I've seen how someone can go from like so much life and energy to really weakening, you know, and becoming so weak and stuff and frail and not be able to do much. And I've seen it. And this is a young person. I mean, when I talked about my ex-wife, she was 47. So when she passed, and I mean, fairly young compared, I mean, that's mid-age, but the fact is she was full of life. And who would have thought that that's going to happen to her, right? You know, I never thought about that, you know, that she could be one, you know, that had this dilemma in her life. No one knows how we end, right? And it's a sad statement, but that's why you have to live the life. I mean, I believe there's a big lesson to learn from I guess our creation. You know, we don't have a set expiration date for a reason, and we don't know about it for a reason. Because if we had to know that date, we would not live. So we enjoy our life because we don't want. And so you have to live a full life, energy, enjoy it, enjoy the things. Like, you know, I had this guest last year. His show goes by The Bucket List Guy. And really, and it sounds like the bucket list. We all know what a bucket list is, right? You know, things you want to do. But his concept is don't wait until the end when you're retired to do the bucket list. Live your life today. You know, because today you have money, tomorrow you don't know if you have money. Today you have health, tomorrow you don't know if you have it. I mean, that's, you know, many people went bankrupt. Many people lost everything during the pandemic. For a good example, pandemic. Only we're still in the edge of it. It's not over yet. We still have some reminiscences of Corona, right? And this is what happens. People have a war going on right now. These guys woke up one day and everything is gone, you know? So no
Very
one has
much, yeah.
no one has a guarantee. So why do we have to always worry, and go crazy? And that's exactly what happens today. People wake up, oh my God, how am I going to survive this week? How am I going to do this? Forget the week. Let's take one
Let's
day at a
focus
time,
on today.
and enjoy it. Live like a healthy lifestyle, right? So now I want, I've given a lot of my analogies, but let's talk about, you had, that's actually a very powerful story that you had. Someone that you saw and gave you this inspiration to actually create this. But I'm sure is that the common denominator with everybody? I mean, that whereby they all realize that, where the hell did I do? Why, I need something
Why
different.
did I
I need
live?
to change.
Yes.
I need to adjust.
And I think and that's a great way you said it, is a common denominator, because one person gave me a poem, one of my clients, and I think it summed it up in that something we realized too late. It's actually a famous poem. I never remember the date, but I have it framed when it says, why we think about this. We have a really nice china or that really nice car. We don't want to drive and get the paint scratched. But this was an example with a glass. And someone says, I drink from the glass because one day the wind might knock it over. One day, I might overfill it. One day, this and that. But it says, I know that the glass is already broken. And so I enjoy the glass today. We know that we have a temporary life, regardless of when the end is. And so I will enjoy it today because I know it is broken. And then I think that's the beautiful part. The brokenness is together with that makes it the togetherness of life more beautiful, right? And so I think those experiences over and over again and that's why I called my podcast In the Rising. How do you rise? Because that is really what my clients were looking for. And even those that were facing the end and were willingly doing that walk, they're like, I know, but this makes me feel better. I know I won't make it next year. And we're really in a place of acceptance. They really started to look at, how can I rise right now? What can I do in the next 6 weeks? What can I do? You know what? I called that person that I hadn't called. One lady said, you know what? I stopped writing Christmas cards. I never wanted to write them. They're a waste of time. No one looks at them. And so I don't do it. And I think those, just living in your truth, even if not everyone likes it, but being comfortable with that. And I think we're not very comfortable with being ourselves. We want to be comfortable being somebody else or what someone else thinks. And that has been the underlying thing. And for so many, what I heard often, not all the time, was that this experience was one of the best things that happened to them, because for whatever time they had left, and they said, if it's 2 years or 20, I'm really going to live, not exist, and really enjoy it and speak up for other people is what I heard a lot as well. And that made me stop and think. So yes, I taught them about breast cancer rehab, because half of them are like, why am I at a physical therapist's office? Like, I taught them, but what they taught me is just, there's no words for everything that I learned from my time with them.
That's powerful stuff. I mean, you're taking from people who are actually facing the reality of that situation. I mean, this is life and death, in real. I mean, most people don't want to think about that, but when you have something of that extreme, today's doctors don't hide the truth from you. They tell you it is bad. And historically, doctors did not tell you like your diagnosis. They talk to the family. They try to make it like, easy. So now it's part of the practice where they tell you the diagnosis and we're going to do this. We're going to do this. They give you options. And and there's a pros and cons to those two theories. And, today's not show for that. We can have that debate later. That are good or bad. But the fact is, it is clear. And so when someone is facing the reality of, wow, and by the way, just a simple example, when I heard about my dad, for example, or and even my ex-wife, the idea was like, you think that it's not going to happen. You see, like there's a moment where you believe that you'll be fine. It's almost like a wish that you try to put a denial phase in your brain. Like you're gonna get through this. You're gonna get through this, and but you're hopeful, right? You're wishful that this is gonna go, because many people do survive and do actually make it, right? And so that's the thing. You keep the optimism, right? You keep that stuff. But at the same time, there's that little bug in little voice to say like, maybe this is it. so you have to start adjusting as well. So there's a point where you really kind of like start making that 50-50 and get into that balance. You don't want to go all the way with the too optimistic, and you start realizing that this may be the end for whoever that person is. And in this case, someone living that is already making that adjustment, but whatever, to your point, whatever time I have, and if I survive, guess what? I'm going to have a super life after this. Forget about it, right? And that's actually what's happening. A lot of people, when they get to this and they pass it, life after that becomes so joyful, and they enjoy everything, and they almost love everything, because some things they may have done in life they regret and whatever. I mean, that's the other thing, when you start kind of reminiscing of all your activities and your actions, and like, oh, I did good, I did bad, I did this, maybe it's time for me to repent and get all my stuff together, hopefully, and if I can make it through here, oh God, and we all turn to God, no matter what denomination and how we believe, we turn to God, and we ask, please make us through, get us through this. And if we do, we make promises. We're going to have, a better life. We're going to make these changes. It's like, resolutions, right? And we make them. And again, for some folks, they survive it, they go through, and they do actually live a much happier life, a different life. They change their lifestyle, how they eat, how they do things, how they hang out with people, who they hang out with,
Yes.
and do more stuff, because the other thing, like, some people would not travel. I know people who don't travel at all. They just work, save. And they say, when I'm retired, I'm going to do this and this and that. But there's no guarantee you're going to even retire. I again, another experience. I mean, I can give different, stories about people I've met or through my life, and it's funny. We talk about half a century. It's a decent amount of time. You experience a lot of things, but one of them, I actually, and that's where the wisdom starts coming in, because you don't have that in the 20s. You kind of like, the world is yours, right? You don't even think, like, I swear to God, it's true. You never think about age until you hit that 40 mark. And then in the 40s, you start kind of, at 45, you start clocking, like, and then at 50 is like, it slaps you in the face, like, ouch, I'm there. And there's nothing you can do. Your features start changing, everything, like your health somehow, like literally at that day, the next day, my arms were not doing good. It starts crazy, but it's fact. And then, but it gives you that wisdom, right? And now you start evaluating things. Like the way I live my life today is, I don't care what people think. If it's not working, you know what? Tomorrow's a new day. I'll switch my life again. I'll do something, but I'm not going to stress about things, like, because it's not going to, what's meant for me is going to be there. What's not is not. And so you start realizing different, things. Your wisdom becomes very high tense. So you start actually evaluating things differently from a different lens, and basically it's almost like you're on a ceiling, on a roof of a top, a building, looking down, so you can see things, more the vision field is bigger. And
you see more. It's a higher altitude.
Exactly.
You're evaluating it. You're not just in it and reacting. You have a higher altitude to look and like, I feel like responding to that, or that's not worth my time, or that is. Yes. That's that wisdom. It's that higher altitude of being able to evaluate it outside of your current circumstance.
And Bettina, you said something about living with other people's expectations. That is the mistake that we all make. Well, at least some of us, we're making
more than others.
And well, again, I mean, I can tell you, I don't care anymore what people think, and I say it loudly. I mean, I post, stuff every day on my Facebook page, and it's all about, positivity. And you know what? You don't like who I am, you don't have to be my friend. I isolate my friends. Exactly. I mean, you don't like, even like one time I had posted this TikTok and say, some people go to your feed and they don't like what you say. Well, if you don't like my stuff, just scroll up and down. I'm not the only game in town. There's plenty out there. Yeah. There's millions of podcasts. There's millions of shows, a lot of channels. Go to Satellite Dish and you have thousands of, you don't have to just hone on me. I'm a nobody to you. That's okay. This is not for you. Cool. We're good. We're friends. Yeah. and that's it. Like, people get excited. They go somewhere. You see, like, you want to get into a fight. What's the point? So that's something like, it's not worth it. Time is valuable. And that's the part I think that we don't realize until you get into a predicament like this, where, my God, I'm now on the clock, and, every minute counts. And that's the other, I'm believing, I find myself today, almost racing to do things. And this is, I'm not even, I don't feel anything wrong, whatever, but that nobody knows, right? But I know one thing, that I want to do as much as I want from my life, and enjoy it and do things with my kids and travel and see the world. And because one day I'm not going to be able to, even if I have money, I might not be able to. I see my mom, for example, she's gotten to that age, but she's not able to do the stuff that she was doing 5 years ago, and that's just the way it is. This is just age. Now, when somebody gets sick, especially with breast cancer or any type of cancer, and some of these very dangerous illnesses, and sometimes fail, they life almost kind of ends and stops for a moment there, and you have to readjust. So Bettina, my question is, like, what are some of the things, some of the advices that you give people to live day by day? I mean, you and I, we kind of talk in general, and I exchange some stuff of my own, how I deal with it. But you are dealing with this daily, and not only in your life, but also in terms of the work, but also in the podcast. But you have some sort of formula that you've devised right now, and you have these things that you go. What do you recommend folks to do, or how do you even? What advice do you give them to live day by day? What things they should be doing?
Yeah. So when I am asked that question sometimes by my clients, like, what do you think? And when I'm in that professional sense, I have to be more objective. I state it more as what people have told me that are in it, because I've had 2 near misses, what I call 2 near misses, where I wasn't sure if I had breast cancer or not, but I personally have not had it. But I've been seeing people who've had it many times. And the formula is, for one, accept all the things that you maybe regretted before. Accept it. Because at the moment you made those decisions, not 100%, we all have had those decisions, but for the moment you made those decisions, you did the best you could with what you had and what you knew at that moment, not right now. That the job you took or the person you dated, those were your values also change with life. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people have told me, I've reevaluated, and as I was going through my own process of how can I help people I became a life coach, and then they give you this whole list of values. I realized that the values I had today weren't even the same ones I had 5 years ago. So I think we're not even operating on the same level, that our values change, we have it, and we're still working physically, emotionally on a different place. And I think then that's that disconnect. So when you are living with what you value at this moment, you're really at peace with a lot more. And my own example is, I really wanted to be, director of this and that. And I got my master's in health administration. I really wanted. And now I don't really care if I ever have it or not. It was a great learning experience. I learned a lot. But I want to make more of an impact. I realized I am my own director. I have my own company. I'm the CEO. So I'm actually more than what I thought I wanted to be, right? If you want to think of it that way. So I think it's perspective and your values is the biggest thing. Because then, and I noticed that with my second time, I didn't want to have a positive answer. I'm still thankful to God that it wasn't a positive answer. But I was calmer. And I was like, I'm at peace with whatever it is. And that was nice, to just be at peace with it, because I did everything the way I made those changes. And that is what people will tell me, even especially with recurrence, when they've had it the second time or the third time. I've spoken with someone who had 4 different cancers and not even 45 years old. But at that point, like, you know what? I'm going through this for a reason. And if I have an assignment, and for most people that is a God-given assignment, you're living life in peace.
Thank you for that, Bettina. Something came up as you were talking. Now, some people, I mean, if you just listen to people who are in maybe the same situation, and or have more tragic endings and things like that, or family members, doesn't that affect you also? I mean, as a person, if you hear all that, I mean, it's almost like it starts becoming your reality. I mean, do you give people advice to maybe change the setting and kind of like maybe talk to people that may not? Because I've experienced this family member who actually had a type of cancer, and then ultimately for about a year, that's all that person spoke about. It became almost like a fixation, and it took a while.
Identity.
It
became the identity.
Yeah, the only thing you talk about is just that. I mean, there's more to this, and so what do you say to that? How do you help people to kind of move from that mindset? Because that is exactly what it is. People, if you live in that, it becomes, the mind is very powerful. The more you feed it, the more it's going to give you the same, right? So if you turn that and start, to your point, live your life, be joyful, do stuff, change, forget everything that you did, live today and live to hopefully live another day and enjoy that day. It might change things if you surround yourself with a different, view, with a different, group of people talking about all the pleasures and all the good stuff versus talking about this. Talk about religion. I mean, some people find religion and that's all good too. Whatever the case may be, but don't hang into that. This is it, or the status. Because the more you repeat it yourself, the more you're going to just put that yourself down and further down.
Right. Right. When someone asks me that, like, what do you recommend? I do recommend that we acknowledge that there's more than a physical realm. Our emotions are tied to our physical realm. And the longer I have been a physical therapist, the more aware I am of how much of our physical ailments do not originate in a physical fashion. That the emotions and traumas from our youth, we carry it literally. There's pains that we have. It is okay we call it now alternative, but there's something called healing touch, where a lot of my clients have gone to a trained nurse, an RN, who learns different ways to talk to you, but mostly just to put her hands on you or his hands on you. We are not touched unless they're even in a romantic relationship. It's maybe we hold hands, but we don't touch each other. But just to have that energy. And sometimes it's not your energy, you got to borrow somebody else's, or allow that positive from others to come through. And to just seek out things that bring you joy. And usually it's the small things. Even if I don't care for ants, I'm having a little battle in my house right now. But I'm still amazed at the work these things can do. And just look at awe. And that's a proven thing so far as research. If you can be in awe of something, then your entire body shifts, your frequency shifts, literally your brain waves shift. Not everything is power through. And I love I'm a fighter, I'm a breast cancer survivor. And even a lot of the clients, I'm tired of always fighting. I just want to be sometimes. And whatever you need is the right answer.
Thank you for that. That's powerful. But you're right. The main concept that you hear all the time is, survivor. By the way, we want people to survive. We want people to, get better and hopefully defeat and be better and live happier life. And I support that 100%, 200% now. But again, in that same time, you have to keep the positivity. You have to keep, a very high energy spirit. Your spirits have to be high. Your spirituality has to be high. That's the other thing. I mean, that's why a lot of people actually become more religious, because at the end of the day, that also gives you a different support system. Now, whatever religion you believe in, they all have the same frequency when it comes to talking to God and being closer, and that's a different thing. But some people also relate that to death, and that's the other part that we have to be careful. So it depends who is the person, how they operate. Some people can take it to the extreme and not be able to come back, or not be able to balance it out. So you have to have both levels. But the key here is you have to have, to your point, be an love life. I mean, there's more to this. And every day, especially, and of course, there is a phase. I mean, people going through pain, they're going through stuff. They're not in the mood, especially when they go through the chemo and all the radiation. That's when it becomes very difficult. But once you get through that phase and get through that pain that goes with the treatment, now you're back, and now you have to live. I mean, that's it. I mean, that's the bottom line. There's live, to your point. Doesn't matter. No one. I had this discussion not even long ago. I have my dad's aunt. So this is somebody that I'm 51. When I realized that she was my dad's aunt, she was already very old at the time. So she only died 2 years ago, and she had breast cancer before I was born. In many cases, back and forth, and she was treated and stuff. but she lived longer than all her siblings and everybody else, and some even of their children. So we don't know. So hope is a big deal also. You want to know.
Yes.
Don't think about always all the people that are leaving us because of this, but think about the people that are here. That's this. So again, it's a mindset. You have to shift it. You have to see where you can find your balance and cling to it to make sure that you have a better outcome. If you do it that way and you depress yourself, you're just stressing more, and that's just going to help, this thing get worse. At least that's my experience from what I've seen.
Yes. I'd have to say that if you're in we would call it our gratitude journal, whatever, but if you're in a better mode, and however you get there, finding nature, the Japanese actually have a word for that, and I don't know what it is, but I studied it, and if you're in nature, you really become healthier. Like, we need that. Even in our cities or what have not, we need to be there. So whatever connection, feeling like we're a part of something, that's what religion is. True religion, spirituality, it's being part of something. Belonging. We are belonging creatures, and often we feel isolated. Cancer isolates you. So feeling connected, it really helps your healing process.
Thank you. And some people also, they get into this label business, right? It becomes a whole thing. Some people, they really live with that 3-point identity, right? Not a very good way to do it. But again, I mean, I cannot speak for someone because they're going through that. And unfortunately, people, sometimes the emotions, overcome and they have to do whatever it takes to get them through it. Right. But so you're doing this pretty much every day. What kind of difficulties do you experience, doing the work you do?
I have actually started to just decompress and ground afterwards, because I cannot take that on personally, because I won't be able to do it. There's always a case here and there that hits you deeper, but I think if I can take that lesson, what I've learned about emotions, about spirituality, and I can take my experience from working with many people, because we may know a person with breast cancer or 2 or 3, but most of us don't know hundreds. And if I have that opportunity to take and culminate that, my frequently asked questions, my biggest concerns, and dispense that to people's hands. Again, you need your own healthcare team to know you personally, but that doesn't mean the general information should be out of touch. Then it is worth it. Then this is part of it. But I also just really try as much as I can. I'm human. I try to just do what I preach, enjoy my nature, enjoy my life. And the way you live your life, there's a saying, you can preach the gospel as loud as you want, but the biggest way to do it is by living your life. And so I can talk all about health as I want, but the biggest example is how I live my life. So
a couple of things, as you're talking about that, do you refer folks to maybe additional type of health, like holistic stuff? I mean, because I know that's typically, and by the way, I've had discussions with people who actually had some terrible levels of cancer and things, and they went to a holistic, approach and different medicine, in addition to this traditional stuff, and and they were able to actually kind of overcome and stay healthier and live a happier life and vibrant life. So, do you leverage that? Do you actually recommend that? I don't know.
I do. I talk about it. A lot of my clients really like the healing touch. A lot of my clients like Reiki. So I became into Reiki because I wanted to know more what I'm talking about. When someone asked me, well, what is it? I don't have to do it for you. I don't have to be your Reiki teacher. I'm your physical therapist, but I at least know what I'm talking about, versus you having to just kind of put it together. I talk about spirituality for those that are wanting to be open about it. I also just allow that space for people to feel comfortable to ask those questions. That's the most important thing. Sometimes you need a therapist to deal with your past. Sometimes you need a coach to deal with your now and how to live in your future. And I explain those differences, because when you hear the cancer word, everything stops. But when you have that time, you let it all out, but then you realize there's other layers to that onion and questions. So yes, I absolutely believe in the benefit of having a full approach, have everything available to you.
Great. So what resources, I know you and I were talking earlier, we talked about some website and some places where people have enough resources to help them and guide them. Is there just that particular platform, or you have different ways to kind of, I guess, recommend to people and guide them to?
So my basic resource right now is that's why I built this website, breaststudy.com, where it has me. I have a quiz on there that you can talk about, or you take the quiz and you figure out what are your major questions. Are you concerned about breast cancer recurrence, the lymphedema, breast cancer pain? So that way you can start to hone in, where are you? Because there's so many things and you can be overwhelmed with what your needs are. Then I also talk about resources and how to link to lymphedema therapists. We don't have a lymphedema doctor. They can get that training, but they're not going to treat you that way. They make a lot more money being a physician. So how do you find a therapist in your local area? So I have those on there. A lot of your breastcancer.org is phenomenal, but I'm really trying to culminate on my website these different areas so you can just have it at your disposal.
All right. Well, we're going to have that in the link of the show so people actually can tap into it. Also, a link to your podcast so people can actually listen to you and your guests and talk. Now, your guests are typically, maybe medicine folks or healthcare folks, or also some of the patients.
You know what? I've had some people who have gone through breast cancer as patients. I've had some physicians, even talking about addiction, health. But my main theme that I heard from my patients is I want to rise up to live a life that is not full of regrets, walk away from the shame and the blame because it does nothing for you, to rise up wherever you are. And to rise up can be financially, emotionally, in our relationships. So I have guests from kind of the wheels of life talking about their experience, how they rose up and what resources they have, because yes, this is cancer, but we want to live a life, and life has so many aspects, the family, the relationships, the money, that too, having enough to do what you want for others, pulling out of a bad situation. So that's kind of my theme there.
I love it. I mean, that the theme itself is just as powerful. I mean, rise up over, you got to rise over everything else, right? You got to raise to the occasion, make it happen, live your life, and that's it. And so I just listening to it, just the fact that you have it in that concept, I mean, that's uplifting in its own, right? And I'm sure you've contributed, you've assisted people, maybe you know it or not, but that's the other thing. Do you know of anybody that actually came back later and said, you know what, thank you for that, because with that word, something you said, something you got them to eventually got them through the dilemma they were in. Anybody?
I have. It happened twice where someone emailed in and said, this was the one I needed to hear today. And then I heard from a friend of a friend of a friend. It was just weird. They're like, I told them about your podcast and they came across this episode, and something with that guest was really powerful. So that guest has power still, right? That to continue to tell their story. And when we tell our stories, we find more commonality than we do differences. And that also, again, builds connection. And so, that those were powerful moments.
Well, they are. And you know what? Thank you for doing the work you do. And, again, you've touched a couple. Those are the ones you know about. I'm sure you've touched many more, and you'll continue doing that. And hopefully this show also, gets a little audience, and hopefully some people. And again, this is not a direct, to anyone, because you might know someone. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, maybe share with them, because that's really what it is. I mean, we all know someone who knows someone that may be facing this trial and or tribulation, I would say. And frankly, it's something to hear. To your point, hearing sometimes talk about this and it changes your mind dynamics. I mean, sometimes you need that talk. Like literally, I needed this. I've had this too. I mean, when people say, you put a post and like, oh, this came in just in the right time. And you don't know who you're going to actually really influence that day or make a difference in their life. But that's the thing. If we don't do it, we're missing 100% of those folks.
Yes.
and if you do it, you might catch someone. And you know what? That's all there is. And as long as we believe in what we're doing, I think our mission is to help these folks and help the world. I mean, listen, I would love to change the world for a better place and, and be a positive, happy life for everyone. And I think everybody wants that. Maybe, I don't know if everybody, because sometimes there are people that may not want that, but that's another story. But the fact is, the work you do is powerful. You're helping folks. And now, how long have you been doing this, by the way?
I have been doing this for over 10 years now. And I've been a physical therapist for 16 years, but I've really honed in on breast cancer in the last 3.
Wow. And I'm sure you've seen a lot of cases, a lot of stories. I mean, do you have a patient load, on a regular basis?
Yes, yes, and so I've changed it a little bit, so it's not full time. It's not so much full time because it's hard on the body yourself. But yeah, 6 weeks, 8 weeks out, and now I'm really trying to focus on getting not just my local area, because some people will drive 2 to 3 hours for a 1 hour appointment. Now I've really shifted to really just trying to reach people in English speaking countries as much as possible. And anyone else, just to get more of the word out, because again, 5 people in a city of over 500,000 is insufficient. So I'm trying to just reach people wherever they are.
Yeah, that is amazing. I mean, that's a tough. I mean, to your point, 5, and that's a lot of people, and the ratio is not going to be enough for anybody.
No.
I mean,
no, it's not. It's not.
To see somebody, the next time it's a couple of months later, and you don't have. So that's the other thing, the anxiety that you have to wait to see, because you need that treatment, whatever. Listen, I mean, maybe there's something that we have a whole different talk show and get some people excited about maybe opening up some more stuff in your area. Or if it's happening in Albuquerque, I'm sure it's happening in other places too. So, so this is probably, and by the way, we don't even know if it exists in other countries, because I mean, obviously people are going to listen like, we don't even have this.
Right.
And it is sad. I mean, because like I said, the healthcare, systems vary from one place to the other within the states. Forget about it. And then we go out, it's even worse sometimes. But we're actually at the top of the hour here, so it went so quick. It's not even funny. But I thank you. I mean, for being on the show and for sharing with us, your contributions and the work you do. And I hope I contributed my way, as well. I mean, based on my experiences. But at the end of the day, my personal, final advice always is like, stay positive, live the life. Again, today's here, tomorrow is a new day. When it comes, you live again. You wake up in the morning, every day's a new day. I use that all my life and I still use it. And it doesn't matter. We all can have good days, bad days. I had Corona one time, and every morning I woke up, I'm not sure if this is going to be the day or not. And that's just a more recent event for me personally. I mean, last year, but you don't know, and you think that it's not going to happen to you until it happens. And then like what?
And then there you go. Right. So I love your theme. I love being positive and to live in the now. So I'm so grateful for your time. It was really a pleasure being on your show.
Well, no, the pleasure mine. And by the way, keep up the good work. Now we're friends, and, maybe we'll come back in. We'll have, a different discussion. So.
Absolutely.
Right. Well, thank you so much. All right.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Folks, thank you for being with us today. Hope you enjoyed the show and you've learned a few things. And, please do reach out to, to Bettina and her site and listen to her podcast. And maybe there's something there that's going to help you change your life for better and cope with this, and whether you directly impact it or not, it's the information is still available, and it could be powerful even by learning something you can share with other people. That being said, from me, Hurricane H here. Thanks for watching. We'll be talking and listening. We'll be talking soon. New guest, new show, new topic. Bye for now.